Trojan fans. Happy Thursday. Welcome to another edition of Tunnel Vision, brought to you by USCFootball.com. I'm your host, India Otto, a.k.a. Automatic, here alongside Triple-Double himself, Connor Morrissette, and the boss man himself, Ryan Abraham. We've got a great show for you guys tonight. We are taking live calls. 5124-TUNNEL is the number to call. We want to hear from you. We are live on YouTube and Facebook. Put your questions, comments, no concerns in the chat, and I will be sure to favorite it, and we'll get to questions at the very end. We've got a great show for you guys tonight. We will be continuing to preview the Iowa Hawkeyes versus USC Trojans, discuss a little bit of the Iowa Hawkeyes and what they're going to bring to the Coliseum, as well as what the Trojans need to do to secure a win as they hopefully head to the college football playoffs. So, guys, happy Thursday. How are you?
Happy Thursday. Yes. We're excited. Big college football weekend. A little college football weather. We don't get much weather here in Southern California, so probably half the show will be talking about how the rain is going to impact things. But no, it's a huge matchup. USC number 17 in the latest college football playoff rankings. Iowa, despite the loss to Oregon, drops to number 21. 3 losses for the Hawkeyes, so very unlikely getting into the college football playoff, but can still finish very strong. We've seen, the Hawkeyes come to the West Coast and have some struggles. They've had some struggles with ranked teams. But to me, it's like a clash of different styles where USC is a spread them out, move the ball all over the field, try to move it up and down and, score quickly if you can, but keep moving the chains. And Iowa's like, slow it down. If you got to play for a better field position so you can punt and all, like that's more of like the Iowa style. Wait for the opponent to make a mistake and then trounce on it. Like, maybe don't have a big long drive, but that fumbled kickoff, you turn into a field goal and now it's 3-0 and you could just like go into, keep away mode and all that. So to me, 2 different styles. I want to see which one emerges because, the 2 best units on the field will be Iowa's defense and USC's offense. So just direct clash with elite units. So, which one is going to come out on top? I think that's who's going to win the game.
Going to be a tremendous chess match. We talked last week about the chess match between USC's offense and Northwestern's defense this week. That gets ratcheted up a little bit. And I was wondering what the motivation level would be like for Iowa coming off of a really tough defeat for them at home against Oregon, giving them their 3rd loss, pretty much eliminating them from the college football playoff. But then I listened to this great podcast, which it's been all over our website, from it's called the A&F podcast. They talk about the Iowa games and they previewed USC, and they talked about the motivation, and it makes a lot of sense. They said they expect this group to be really bought in for Iowa and come into the Coliseum with a chip on their shoulder because Iowa's lost 12 straight ranked games. And when you look at the Big Ten standings, the top tier in the Big Ten, it's Ohio State, it's Indiana, 2 undefeated teams, but then you got USC at 5-1, Oregon at 5-1, Michigan at 5-1, Iowa at 4-2. And if Iowa finishes in that second tier, that for them would be a big step in the right direction. They're in the middle of this rebuild, which is so funny to say because Kirk Ferentz has been there since before I was born, I think. But they're trying to just change the narrative about their offense, and they're trying to show that even though this guy's been here for so long, like we are progressing, and a win over USC would be massive for that. So I was wondering, they're going to be out of the playoff. Could we see some quit with this team? But I think in their minds, they're trying to make Iowa football more appealing nationally and just change what everyone's talked about with them. The offense sucks, the defense is good, and if you keep them within 1 score, you're fine. But the second an opponent goes up by 2 scores, they're in trouble because they can't keep up. And I do think the psychology of that plays into this game, that the rain will be something to talk about as well. But just big picture, I think this is going to be a fantastic college football game. I'm really looking forward to it.
I agree, and I think, one of the goals would be, hey, look, Indiana, Ohio State, you're not catching them. Oregon's right there. Now, Iowa had their shot at Oregon last week. Could have got a win, didn't. That last, minute touchdown drive was impressive, but not touchdown, field goal drive, impressive by Oregon and torrential rain. USC still got a shot at both those teams. But being that number 4 team, I think matters this year. You want to be up there. I think Michigan had a shot. Iowa certainly thinks they have a shot at that. USC can do better than that because they can still win out, have one loss in conference, and end up being like the third best team. But getting to that number 4 spot, I think it's something that Iowa would really like to do. But I think to your point, I did a Know Your Foe preview with our counterparts over at the Hawkeye Insider site, and talking about this isn't the Iowa offense from a couple years ago where Brian Ferentz, the offensive coordinator, that Kirk's son, in his contract he had to get 25 points a game or he was going to be fired, and they ended up firing him. They weren't getting close to that, and they had to fire him and stuff. But this isn't that kind of offense. Now they have the last ranked passing offense in the Big Ten still, but Mark Gronowski, who was a 2-time national champion at the FCS level, he's really like the straw that stirs this Iowa drink. And it's not his passing, but really his running. 12 touchdowns on the ground. He's scored a touchdown in every single game. I think he's the only player in college football to do that, and the longest streak for a quarterback. So he makes things go, but it's really the Iowa rushing offense that's doing it. But they're scoring points. They've had, I think it was like a 41-point game, 38-37 in Big Ten play. And they don't give up a lot. I think 28 is the most points they've given up in Big Ten play. And that was to Rutgers, who threw for 300 yards. That's kind of like the comp I'm looking at for USC. Like that was, I believe, a home game for Rutgers, and try to, I think USC can have, success through the air against this Iowa defense just because they're really good at it. But yeah, it's one of those things where like Iowa still has a lot to play for, but that was a tough game. That was a demoralizing game. Can you bounce back from that? And you're not playing at home. You're going on the road and, 2,000 something miles away, a couple of time zones. So it's going to be, I think, a challenge, but maybe the rain will be a little more welcoming. They just played in the rain last week. So we'll see. But yeah, I think it's a really big one and a lot to play for both teams. But USC, there's more to play for. You still can make the college football playoff, and it starts with a win. If you start 6-1 in the Big Ten play after going 4-5 last year, with a chance to go on the road and beat Oregon, and then knowing that just beating your rival, you're going to go to the playoff. It's a lot. So this was a really big one for USC.
It's a huge game, and all week we've asked the players and coaches, how are you embracing this challenge? How are you able to take this week by week? And Lincoln Riley, I don't want to say he's looking ahead because that's not correct, but he's explained to his group how they have a really unique opportunity here, and it's a little bit different than past years. The way the staff is set up this year, they feel like there's a lot of guys on this staff with championship pedigree, and so the staff is doing a good job to try to relay to the players how important this week is, and it's very exciting in that regard. And I'm excited, Ryan, just to see how this USC defense defends the run, especially early on when the last 3 games for USC, they've given up opening drive touchdowns to their opponents, and a lot of those issues have come on the ground. You know that Iowa is going to be a run-heavy team. They are way down in the bottom of FBS in passing yards and passing attempts. It's just a lot of running from them, and it's worked. And they felt like Iowa that they left some running plays on the table and could have done an even better job running the ball against Oregon. So that's the chess match. How USC defends the run, to me, will determine if USC wins this game, because I do think the offense for USC is capable of outscoring Iowa, but if USC allows Iowa to have a field day on the ground, then I don't see how USC can overcome that offensively because Iowa's defense is so good. So the number one thing I'm watching is how are they going to slow down Gronowski? How are they going to slow down Moulton, the running back on the ground? It's a really good offensive line for Iowa. That's the challenge. USC's linebackers will be put in tough spots. Keyshawn Silver is going to have a big game as the biggest guy in the middle. We're going to need to see more from USC's defensive ends. Just haven't seen much from them outside of that strip sack Anthony Lucas had against Nebraska. It's a big rise to the occasion game for the middle of that USC defense. Everyone out there says this is a soft group. They still have to get that respect nationally, even though they've made some progress this year. It's a huge test with that this week.
Yeah, Speed Kills put in the chat, and India put it up before. Heavy running teams are our kryptonite, like against Notre Dame. So I would say the difference is that Notre Dame, Carr is like, I think tops in the nation in yards per attempt. He's like over 10, like right near where Jade Maava is.
He was terrible as a passer against USC, though, for whatever reason.
Yeah, but he's a really good passer. And I think for Iowa, you're certainly much more limited in the passing attack. So you can sell out and try to stop the run. And, they used 3 linebacker sets against Notre Dame, and it didn't work very well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I think this is a thing where, a game where you can focus on stopping the run and specifically stopping Gronowski, because he's going to, like I said, 12 rushing touchdowns on the season. That's really how they get going. And the go-ahead touchdown against Oregon was him running the football. So I think you can focus on that a little bit more. And the other thing that, to Connor's point, if the offense needs to shine, but the defense needs to get the ball back. If it's going to be, we were just watching the Patriots Jets game, and it was very similar to the Northwestern game where it was like 2 possessions in the first quarter, and you can't allow that. Like the Jets haven't done much since then, but they got a bunch of first downs, and if Iowa can do that, and they eat up half a quarter every time they have the ball, even if they just kick a field goal, that's just time away from USC having chances. You want USC to have as many chances at the ball as possible. And if I was able to run the ball consistently, keep moving the chains, you're just chewing up clock, and you're limiting those possessions and limiting those opportunities for what I think is the best unit in this game to get the ball. So I think it's important for the USC defense to step up and make some big plays. Iowa will punt. They'll punt on your side of the field. It doesn't matter, but just get the stop. So you got to get the stops. You can't just keep giving up first downs.
I'm with you on that. That is a huge key. And then on the flip side, I look at Lincoln Riley this week, and I thought his play calling, especially in the second half of the Northwestern game, was tremendous. It was pretty dang good in the first half as well. This is a huge game for him because Iowa is such a talented defense, and they should be able to take advantage of some of the limits on USC's offensive line, where if Killian O'Connor is in there, then he's just a little bit undersized. If it's Big General Reed, maybe the communication stuff that he struggled with, Iowa might be able to take advantage of that. The brilliant mind that is Lincoln Riley, we've just seen him do some really unique things the last few weeks, whether it's totally switching the game plan in the second half against Nebraska to become more of an option team. Urban Meyer talked about that on Big Ten Network, or last week, some of the stuff where Mekhi Lemon is used as a running back and how he's able to scheme these guys open. He's done a really nice job. And if he can do that against an Iowa defense that is probably the best defense USC will face this year, maybe you could say it's going to be Oregon, but I think Iowa's defense is really, really talented and just really well coached. So Notre Dame's would be in that mix too. But I just look to, that's what USC's secret sauce is. Lincoln Riley doing his thing, getting guys open, showing Iowa looks that they haven't seen before, that they weren't ready for. And that's just what makes this chess match so awesome to watch. Phil Parker, Lincoln Riley, may the best man win.
Yeah. India, have you been in situations where you had one team is run up and down the court and score constantly, and the other team is slow the ball down and just limit your possessions and take your shot with 5 seconds left on the shot clock? What are that to you? What have you seen from matches like that?
Yeah, totally. We've definitely had teams that are just run and gun. They just like to push the ball in transition, and they don't really like to play in the half court very much. They just like to get up and down. And then the following week, you'll have a team like an Oregon State, for instance, when we were in the Pac-12, who is very methodical in their half court offense. And it's their head coach is almost like a puppeteer. Everything is just very methodical and surgical, and there's not a lot of up and down. It's just a lot of execution. And then you have some teams who are maybe not as talented, so they try to run the clock down a lot and kind of shoot shots, with 10 seconds or less. And it's always a challenge when you go week to week and you have different styles of play that you're playing against.
I have a follow-up. Did any team that you played against ever totally switch up what they did going up against USC and it caught you guys off guard? Because that happens in football sometimes. Basketball, it's a little different, I know.
Yeah, no, for sure. I can't remember exactly what team it was, but we definitely played a team before. I think it was a couple years ago, and we thought that they were going to come out defensively a certain way because that's how they played their previous games, and they guarded players that were similar to our players in this particular way, and then they came out and did something completely different, and they did a box and one, and they would just start randomly trapping everywhere, and it was definitely different from what we had anticipated. And so yeah, teams definitely do that sometimes, especially if you don't really have anything to lose. Sometimes they'll just throw something completely different out at you because you're not going to expect it.
Yeah, and I think when you have different styles like that in a basketball game, or we're talking football here, obviously, it's sort of like, well, who's going to make the other sort of adapt, and it depends on the way, sometimes a game is going a certain way. We've, watching the NFL games, what was it, the Monday night one where it was like 3-0 and you're like in the third quarter or something, like, and another, those teams could play and it could be 33-30 in that third quarter, so it's just a different style of game. And I think for USC, it's really important to dictate the style, dictate the pace, and make it so Iowa needs to try to score with USC. If you're playing field position and where we punting from, and that kind of stuff is just what Iowa wants to do. And so for me, when these stylistic kind of games, you got to force your opponent to do what they're not comfortable doing. They're not comfortable picking up 3rd and 8. Like USC can pick up 3rd and 8, like 3rd and 2, easier sometimes. It's just that's not a big deal. Like passing situations are not like a big deal, but for Iowa, like if you don't have success on 1st or 2nd down and you're in an obvious passing situation, not an ideal spot. You could look for some kind of draw. You could have the quarterback drop back and take off and run, but dropping back and throwing some intermediate ball is not really the number one goal of what you try to do. Where USC, you feel really comfortable doing that. So I think the style-wise, it's going to be important for me to see USC try to dictate the style. If you can do that, you're putting your opponent in a position that they're not used to being in.
Yeah, you don't want to be reactionary with things like that. And it also ends up being like a battle of adjustments, like who can make the best adjustments at the right times, and with kind of two different styles as well.
It's crazy to see Iowa's success when you look at the game log for Mark Gronowski. He hasn't thrown for 200 yards in a game this season. Every game has been under 200, but you look at what he's able to do on the ground, and I give that staff at Iowa credit, Tim Lester, the offensive coordinator. Like, they know what they do well and they know what they don't do well. And if you had told me at the beginning of the season, because when they got this kid, like, he was a really good passer at the FCS level, and he was the dual threat guy, but he put up better passing numbers than this. I think even the biggest Iowa fans who will follow him till the depth of hell would have said, our passing offense will be better than what they've shown, but they're making it work. And that's kind of Iowa's MO, where they might have a big issue on their roster, but they always make it work. And it's funny because, you want to have a coach who competes for championships and just is at the peak of the sport. But Kirk Ferentz, it's kind of how do you look at it, where he's just had so much success, especially defensively. You always know what you're getting with Iowa, but they're a really hard team to play for the most part. But they've lost 12 straight games to ranked teams. I wonder how happy Iowa fans are, because listening to that podcast that I referenced earlier, it seems like this year there's been a clear improvement for them, but they're still sitting at 6-3. And how those guys described it was this season's been a year of lost opportunity, because their 3 losses have come by 10 points. So I'm talking up this coaching staff they're so great, but then you look at the record and you look at the history, they're great at certain things and not so great at others, but they certainly are tough to play against.
And I think that style does keep it close. And this is a 6.5 point spread. We'll talk about it. I still think USC can cover this one, and I haven't been bullish on USC covering the last month or so, but they do keep it close. And the 3 losses, Iowa was leading or at least tied under 2 minutes to go in all 3 of those games. So, and they end up losing them late. But it's one of those things where it's great that you can keep it close, but you're not really going to be a separating type of team unless the other team's just is bumbling and you can pile it on with defense. When Iowa scored a bunch of points against some bad teams, they're not scoring a bunch of points against the good teams, but the way they're built is we're going to keep it close, and then if it's a coin flip at the end, you're going to lose some of those, and they've lost some of those coin flips at the end. It was pretty amazing. Iowa's offense was doing nothing, and it looked like there was no way they were going to take the lead against Oregon, but they have some 95-yard drive or whatever it was, and Gronowski, finishes it off, if I'm not mistaken. And for Iowa to have a long touchdown drive to take the lead, you're like, okay, that's something that they weren't necessarily built to do, but they did it. They executed it, and I think 8 times out of 10 they're probably going to win that game. In the rain and all that stuff. And Oregon had a really nice drive and made some great plays, and I was able to they didn't convert the 2-point conversion, and then Oregon could to win the game with the field goal there. So but yeah, they're kind of built to keep it close, which you'd like to.
There's something to be said about that, but there's also you want to be built to win.
Yeah, you want to be built to win. Like keeping it close is great. You're like we're right there. Like if we get that turnover or that punt return, it's like okay, but yeah, that's USC if they're like gonna outplay a team that's just gonna blow them out, and that's not really Iowa's style.
I mean, Gronowski has 5 touchdowns and 4 picks on the year. Like, it's crazy.
9 games in, he has 1,084 passing yards.
In the middle,
9 games in. He's played all of them. It's not like he was out 4 of them.
Yeah, exactly. In the middle of the year.
That's like 3 games for, Jade Mayava.
At Rutgers, against Indiana, at Wisconsin, against Penn State. 0 touchdown passes. They went 3-1, and they lost a really close game to Indiana by 5, and that should have been 3. They had that weird.
Can you imagine
or it should have been 7 actually.
A 4-game stretch, you go 3-1, and your quarterback throws 0 touchdown passes.
So that just shows how different styles.
Yeah.
The different styles that are going to be happening on Saturday when USC. It's the total opposite, where they gave up 1,000,000 yards on the ground to Notre Dame, and Jade Mayava, for the most part, is throwing the lights out of the ball, or the lights out of the building. I don't know if that even makes sense, but he's having a great year is what I'm trying to say. And that's why this game, it's just going to be so fun to watch to see which style wins out.
This is one of the more frustrating things for me. So just a little kind of behind the scenes. India hasn't been in this world too long in the sports media world, but you sort of, a lot of people get into this because you're huge fans of sports. I'm still a big fan of sports. I'm watching Trayvon Henderson has 3 touchdowns for my fantasy team. I'm loving that right now. But as far as me being a diehard fan of I was a Steeler fan growing up, and and it's hard for me to be a fan that really lives and dies by the results of what's going on, because you cover a team, it just becomes it's a job. And I know some sports, sports reporters that are still diehard, usually not what you cover, but it's taken some of that sort of fandom for me, because it is work. It's more of a, it's more of a job. But one of the things that would frustrate the fan in me more than anything is a game like this, when you just know it's oh my God, just get the lead. They're never going to be able to do anything if you just
go
play
by
your
2
game, take the lead.
scores.
Oh, you can't fumble that. Why did you fair catch at the 1 yard line? The stupid stuff that happens in these games with the defensive field position team. You just can't make those silly mistakes that they are counting on you. They're waiting. We're not going to play hard. We're going to wait for you to make a mistake. And when the teams make the mistake, I forget there was a USC game a while back where they. It was a fair catch at the 1 yard line, and that was totally. I forget which game that was. Was that the Cotton Bowl? It might have been that one. I don't remember.
Mario Williams.
But yeah, stuff like that, and you're just you can't do these things. Just go out, play your game. You score 2 touchdowns, you're gonna win. But don't opening kickoff fumbled. That's the kind of stuff that happens. So nothing frustrates me more as a fan person than seeing a game like this. You're come on, you just can't do that. So that's a little that's still part of the fandom in me. I've lost a lot of it just doing this job for a long time, but that stuff where you're just come on, that really annoys me. So I'll be really annoyed if that happens in this game.
I will say with Iowa, they went down to Penn State 21-10, and they came back and won. So this year they do have one come from behind victory when they were down 2 scores. But in years past,
that's pretty impressive. Yeah. It is zombie Penn State.
I mean, exactly. It's impressive, but then you look at Penn State, you click on their schedule. Oh, my God, they're 0-6 in the conference.
Yeah, they haven't won a single conference game. Yeah. No, they're still a talented team, but interim stuff, that's zombie land. You're not, But against a zombie, to be down 2 scores and come back and win, that's impressive. Just coming back against Oregon last week, 1 score, that was impressive. So there's some capability there, but you make them do that. Make Iowa come back. Don't let them play from the lead the entire time. You're come on. This is, you have to get out there and force the action.
It's similar to Northwestern. Sorry, India, where
No, you're
USC
totally
went up
fine.
a couple scores and then Northwestern couldn't do anything. I see it similar. If USC can take a hold early, it's going to be hard for Iowa to get back into it. But Iowa's so good at not letting the opposing team take control early.
I was just going to remind everybody who's tuning in, we're live on YouTube and Facebook, and we're taking live callers.
We got a call, too.
There we go. Number to call is 512-4-TUNNEL.
We got Mitch.
How's it going, guys? Love the show. I think our defensive line, especially Crawford and Stewart, are going to have a good game. So maybe they won't do so well and dare them to throw the ball. Get the guys in the box. And I think we have King and Lemon is back. Supposed to Jacoby Lane. I think our offense is going to carry this game. Is it possible? They know it's going to rain hard. Could they do this? Or is this for scheduling money? If they clear up by Sunday, I mean, I was hoping for no home game. We would have to deal with this rain and have, that weather be a factor here. But could they move the game to, like, Sunday? I know, it'll be the first time, right? Who listens to me? Anyway, enjoy the game.
Thank you, Mitch.
Thanks, Mitch.
I remember during the Notre Dame game, Ryan, there was talk if the game had to be moved, it wouldn't have been played. I wonder if it's a conference game, what that would mean for USC Iowa.
Yeah.
But hopefully, I don't think it's going to get to that point.
No, I mean, it seems like you'll get weather, like you'll get rain, but not like, like lightning storms like we saw in Purdue. And that, I mean, that was crazy stuff. But yeah, I don't think they're moving the game. It would, ideally, you would like it to be sunny and 70. Again, something that Iowa's not going to be as comfortable with. Like everyone likes sunny and 70, but they're used to playing in mud bogs and things like that. They're practicing. They have indoor facilities because it's too crappy outside. Like USC doesn't even have that because you never need it. So yeah, I don't know weather-wise. Like 2 days ago, it was supposed to rain. Today, we did get a few sprinkles.
It did rain a little
here.
on my drive down, but nothing crazy.
A few sprinkles, and then it changed to now it's going to rain Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and into the week. And we'll see. Like you might catch a window of like 3-4 hours of nothing. It might pour for like one quarter. I don't know. Typically around here, you get like they overhype storms, and then all of a sudden it's like, it really wasn't that much. But yeah, it's probably going to be some rain. But I think no matter what you're going to do, you can run your offense. And, I talked about this. I did like an Innerberg show earlier today. And one of the things is like, yeah, you might hurt a passing team versus a running team. But defensive backs don't know where the routes are going to go. And if a receiver knows, like, I'm going to cut here, it's a little easier to do that in slipperier conditions than a DB backpedaling and not sure which way he has to go. So, like, a receiver knows where he's going to cut and what routes he's going to run and where he needs to go. And footwork can be a little bit easier in that situation too. So you can get DBs like sliding all over the place and put them in bad spots where you just have guys wide open. And so I think, it could work both ways. We'll see. But I wouldn't worry too much about the weather. Wait till you get there and, we'll figure it out.
You've been anti-weather all week, Ryan.
I'm anti-weather for my whole life.
I think it might be a factor.
Yeah. I moved here for a reason. I don't need to worry about the weather all the time.
We'll have to see because it favors Iowa. I think it has to.
Yeah, I would say, bad weather would favor Iowa. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll have to see. I think we got another call.
Oh, we got another one? This looks like Big E from Minnesota.
Hey, Ryan. Hey, Connor. India, how you guys doing?
Good.
Doing
Good,
great.
good.
Big E, how are you?
Hey, we're doing good. Hey, I got two things for you tonight. First of all, Iowa runs that 4-2-5 defense, and it's basically like no big plays, right? So they want to drop so many guys in coverage. I think we're going to see something that would make Lane Kiffin smile this week with a lot of quick screens to Lemon and Lane. Just a lot of quick hitters, not a lot of driving the ball down the field. Curious to see if that comes to pass with the rain or not, but I think it's going to be a screen game. And the question I really wanted to ask you guys is, Iowa's offense is kind of one-dimensional, right? They like to run the ball, they like to bleed the clock. Do we think this is the week that Coach Lynn decides to stack the box more? SC's defense has gotten gashed. A couple of those running teams, Notre Dame game, even Nebraska had some success really in the first half running the ball. SC never really adjusted, bringing more bodies closer to the line of scrimmage. Curious if you think this is the week we might see that adjustment. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for that. Yeah, it's for the
I think
second
they have
part.
to, right?
Yeah, I think you have. Like there's one thing you need to defend, and it's Iowa running the football. And if Iowa's going to be passing the ball down the field, like you can put guys on islands and just let them go make plays. We saw Marcellus Williams make a bunch of plays one-on-one. I think you can allow that and get Kamari Ramsey closer to the line of scrimmage, whatever you need, and try to force Iowa to beat you. Besides running the football, you can do your best to try to take away the run game, and if Iowa beats you passing the ball, pat them on the back and say, great job. So, yeah, I think this is a stack the box, run blitz, whatever you need to do, spying on Gronowski. Like, I would not say, well, we got to worry about, no. Like, you worry about the run and then let the other stuff, like chips fall where they may otherwise. And
we saw that against Nebraska a little bit where DeCarlos Nicholson was on an island a lot. Marcellus Williams was on an island a lot. Kamari Ramsey would be playing closer to the line of scrimmage, and then Bishop Fitzgerald just would be back there. USC did play a lot closer to the line of scrimmage in that game, especially in the second half after the quarterback change for Nebraska when they really couldn't throw the ball. So there is a precedent for that this year, and it worked. So I certainly could see USC doing that, and I think that has to be the game plan where the leading receiver for Iowa, 13 catches for 216 yards. So the guy's averaging 16.6 yards per reception, which is pretty good. Sam Phillips is his name. I think he transferred from Chattanooga, but 13 catches on the year. It's been 9 games. That's what?
Yeah.
Less than 2 per game.
Two's a big game, right? 2 catches. Wow. Pretty amazing.
Let's make sure he's played it in every game. He's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7. So
yeah,
a little over 2 per game.
No,
under. It's
under
13.
Per
That's
game.
my math on the air. There you go. That's why
nice,
I'm doing this job
there. And I think, the podcast that Connor was referring to, those guys were thinking that I was going to play a lot of 2 deep safeties, and they're just trying to keep things in front of them. And I think that could mean bigger holes for King Miller. They're talking about that front 6 trying to hold up against the run game, but getting guys out in the flat or some stuff underneath, whatever you need to do, the screen game, and you can take some shots down the field and stuff as well. But there's so many weapons. Using the tight ends more. I'd rather see Lake McCree sort of catching the ball, 5 yards and beyond, not at the line of scrimmage running sideways for whatever reason. Sometimes Lincoln Riley really likes to do that. It just doesn't seem to work very well. But when he gets out into space, downfield a little bit, it's great. He's throwing the ball, and if he doesn't go anywhere else, that's fine. But throwing to him at the line of scrimmage, it's not been my favorite thing. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities there for the short passing game, and USC does that really well. And credit the offensive line because they've been really good at opening up holes for the run game. But I think, blocking for Jaden Mayava as well. He's just not been under pressure as much. They just haven't given up a lot of sacks. And they broke that. And we've talked about this a bunch before, but the way the offensive line, the movement that they have where, you watch some of the running plays and you have a guard and a tackle pulling. You could have any one of the guys can pull. So those Iowa guys were really impressed with the athleticism of USC's offensive line and how like an A-gap run, it could be, the tackle comes through and he's like a lead blocker going through there. And they've really busted some big plays, leaving someone on the backside uncovered or someone's to chip them. But when the linemen get out in front and they're pulling and they're running, ahead of the running back, or if it's Mayava running, and just the way that's worked, when you see those plays that work well and you break it down the film, it looks awesome. So you got to give credit to Zach Hansen and this offensive line crew. It's been a different group of guys. They have complex things they need to do, and they seem to be able to do it well just about every week.
It's a big game for those guys, especially if Iowa stays true to what they've done. To Big E, the caller's point, how they like to have the 5 guys back. Like if USC can run effectively against 6, the 4 down linemen and then the 2 linebackers, that is another huge key to this game because Iowa's going to be so aware of USC's threat throwing the ball against Oregon. Dante Moore made that nice pass at the end of the game, but the fact that they had their top receiver out, DeCorian Moore, and the good tight end for them was also out. Oregon just didn't throw the ball as much, so Iowa was able to play closer to the line of scrimmage, and they won't be able to do that against USC, which should open up the run game, and we just know how disciplined Iowa is, and they've done a nice job outside of that Oregon game for the most part against the run this season, I think. So that's a huge piece of this game as well. I look at King Miller, how well he's done. He's going to be a huge key in this game because maybe USC does have a hard time throwing it down the field because Iowa does such a nice job of limiting the big plays, but then the give and take with that would be that should open up stuff in the run game.
Yeah. And Jacoby Lane doesn't. You can have him double covered down there, and you can still throw him the ball, and he'll make a play. Notre Dame's defense was really good, and you see USC marched down the field to start the game.
Took a lead in the third quarter.
Yeah, they took a lead in the third quarter. I think, and Notre Dame's offense is significantly better, obviously, than Iowa's. So I think if you could even play like that, and that was on the road, you're going to be in a good spot against Iowa. So they just have to, if they didn't play well, they didn't run the ball that well against Notre Dame, but I think you can play, some of the passing plays that were made there, you can do that against Iowa. And it's going to be tougher for Iowa to come back in a bunch of those situations. And USC's defense just did not. They could not. I mean, obviously, Jeremiah Love went bananas. They couldn't stop the run at all. But there was much more of a threat for Carr to pass than what you're going to see from Gronowski. So, yeah, I think this is set up really well for USC. It's a different game for the Trojans at home. And I get it. The weather's going to be crappy. But this team just plays so much better in the friendly confines of the Coliseum. And I think the contrasting styles, USC's offense can win out in this one. And, it might not. And if Iowa wins, it's going to be because it didn't,
I think it's going to be because the defense lays an egg. I obviously, the offense plays a part in that if USC doesn't score enough points. But if they put USC's linebackers, especially Desmond Stevens, in a position where he has to make a lot of decisions, that's not necessarily a great spot for him right now. And I think that's going to be a huge emphasis, especially when you have a quarterback who can run like Gronowski. There's going to be some option stuff, and those guys are going to be thinking a lot. And we'll see if the last couple of weeks have been true progress and Stevens is playing with a new confidence and he can take another step forward and make big plays, or will he be out of position and it might look a little bit like that Notre Dame game. So I think he's a huge key this week.
Yeah. The linebackers have to play well. And there have been some moments the last couple of weeks, been better, especially in the second half. But this is one of those games where you just need linebacker play. Just come in and blow some stuff up, not completely take the wrong fit and you're in the wrong gap and, things are just breaking the other way. They had some good plays that podcast broke down as well, where I think –
We've referenced that podcast 6 times. Definitely listen to it.
It's
really
funny,
good.
Like – Bishop Fitzgerald coming down in the wrong gap, and
A&F podcast.
And they did a really nice job of stuff. So, and some of the stuff we've talked about already, but like seeing it like on some specific plays, you're like, yeah, that's in general. Like Eric Gentry does some really great things. Some of the stuff is like, hey, you're making plays in the backfield, getting in passing lanes. Like some of the stuff he does really well, you don't necessarily need in this game as much. You need.
Yeah, he's great in coverage, and he's great. I mean, he's just great, period. But one of his strengths this year has been in coverage, and you probably won't need that as much.
You need like fit the run. Like you need to be like.
Which he can as well.
Yeah, and he's going to need to like all those guys, and it'll be curious to see if they go with 3 linebacker sets. Shotgun broke down some of the formation stuff. There was like a pyramid formation where it was really like a 4-3, and Gentry was sort of like a hybrid, like between the safety and linebacker, like behind those guys. And some interesting sort of like formational things that USC can do. And, we'll see what D'Anton Lynn kind of pulls out, the hat on this one. But if it's not selling out to stop the run in some way, shape, or form, I think that's a mistake. Like, I think it's just, you have to do that. Like, take away, slow down, whatever Iowa wants to do running the football. Don't let Gronowski run all over you. Don't leave it. Like if there's an opportunity for him to run, assume he's running and just you need something to stop there. If that means, you got one-on-one coverage with the slot receiver or whatever, fine. Just let that happen. And maybe they make a big play, but I would much rather take your chances with that than, you've just left the guy, you left your gap open and he just runs up the middle for 20 yards. No, you can't do stuff like that.
There's no Tyler Warren on the other side.
No.
One of Iowa's great tight ends that they've had over the years. They have some guys who are serviceable in the passing game, and they've made some pass plays when they've needed them. But I'm with you. Let Marcellus Williams cover whoever he needs to cover one-on-one. Let DeCarlos Nicholson do the same. You shouldn't really need much safety help in this game. This is a game that screams 3 linebackers for USC. We'll see if they feel more comfortable with Christian Pearson there instead, but that's a huge key.
Yeah.
We got somebody in the chat was calling you out, Ryan, for your weather forecast. Hold on.
Weather forecast, okay.
They said, Ryan doesn't understand how forecasting works. Within 48 hours, it is very accurate, LOL.
Palmolive. That's bull crap. Come on. Like, we've been watching the weather, and they're like, it's
They
not
said it
going
was going to rain today, and it barely it
like,
drizzled.
It's like not going to. They're like, it's not going to rain today, and I'm like, I'm looking outside. It's raining, like literally for right now. Like, we've seen so many things
Or yesterday,
be wrong.
Yeah.
They're wrong all the time.
Are you calling it that they're going to be wrong?
No, I'm just saying.
What are you saying?
That within 48 hours, they're not super accurate. Like, these are models. Like,
But this was a storm that people on the peristyle were talking about 3 weeks ago because there's some specific atmospheric, and if you're a meteorologist in the chat, you can correct me if I'm saying the wrong word. Like, this is a different kind of deal, I think.
well, 2 days ago, it wasn't going to rain Saturday. It was going to rain on Thursday. And now it's like rain all weekend. So that's 2 days. That's 48 hours. It changed a shit ton, right? Okay. So it changes a lot. It might rain the whole time. I don't know. But to be like, oh no, it's definitely going to be like, no, it's not definitely going to be anything. It's like, yeah, we're days away. It could change a lot. Like, oh my God, it's sunny and 70. Bring your sunscreen to the game, everybody. Like, we're going to,
Or it could drizzle, or it could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a funny guy, Ryan.
Yeah. I don't worry about the freaking weather. What do you people?
This week, you might have to.
You have somebody who agrees with you. Mark 97 says, storm timelines change quick. There will be rain, but what time will it be there and pass?
Yeah. And it could be sporadic, or it could like rain all freaking day. Like, we don't know. If it's sporadic, you're like, all right, you got some rain. If it's like torrential downpour, 2 inches of rain, like throughout the whole game, like, yeah, that's going to impact things.
It's going to be bad.
It's going to suck. But that's not a guarantee just because like somebody said it, like, oh, it's going to rain that way. Like, you don't know. Could be anything.
Could be anything.
Yes.
Anything else?
Did you ever watch L.A. Story?
No.
Back in the day, Steve Martin, Woody Harrelson was like the news director. Steve Martin's the weatherman at the TV show, and Woody Harrelson's the the station manager or whatever. And he fires him because Steve Martin pre-recorded the weather. It was like sunny and 70, and all that, whatever. And it ended up being like some storm, and his boat sunk or something like that. So he fired him. But yeah, he pre-recorded the weather for the week. So that was pretty funny.
Sounds like something you'd do.
Yes, because it doesn't matter.
Anything else on the Iowa Hawkeyes people must know? Some people in the chat were talking about don't let 21 on punt returns go crazy.
Was it WestJet? What's his name? It's like WetJet or something like that. No, he's legit. But special teams. So if you read the Know Your Foe, we put up on USCFootball.com just a couple hours ago. Special teams normally really good for Iowa, and there's been times they've been exceptional, and there's been some like major returns, but they've also had some big screw ups. Their kicker has the most attempts of anybody in the country because it's Iowa. They kick a lot of field goals. I think he has 22 attempts.
Yeah, WetGen is his
WetGen, yeah. It sounds like something you clean the floor with, but it's like he's like really good, but he's made some mistakes. Their kicker's been great over 50, but not as good in the 40s. There's just some weird, like, it's not like the lockdown special teams are amazing for Iowa, but the potential for amazing special teams are certainly there. So that's even more reason for USC not to like give up a big punt or kickoff return, turn the ball over, have a big penalty that pins you back deep, that kind of stuff. This hasn't been like the every I dotted, every T crossed Iowa special teams unit. This is an Iowa special teams unit that's capable of making mistakes. So don't give them some crazy plays that can turn the game on special teams. So that would be my thing.
I'm sensing one of your three keys. We don't have to spoil anything. But I think I'm hearing some 3 key talk right now.
We were talking about over pizza.
There you go. We've got a...
Oh, super chat.
Let me pull it up. From USC Trojan Zone. Folks, are we going to leave the Big Ten and go Indy?
Oh, okay.
Ryan, I'll defer to you.
I've been sort of like an advocate of USC exploring independence for quite a while, starting back in the Pac-12 days when things weren't, they weren't really, and to the detriment of the Pac-12, they did not take care of their big brands. And I think at the time, USC didn't have very strong leadership. And I was like, you don't need to go independent, but you at least need to explore going independent. And to be fair, USC not explored independence, but leaving, for the Big Ten when they did was a really big deal. And just like leaving hey, you guys are going to have a crappy TV deal. We could double our revenue at this other place, even though there's more challenges there. So to be fair, USC finally stepped up and actually did something. Now there's another opportunity here, and I'll have more detailed stuff in the war room over at uscfootball.com tomorrow. But there are 2 Big Ten programs that are fighting against this version of a private equity deal. And Ross Dellinger did a really good job of breaking this down, and different things that I've heard and stuff too. Michigan and USC.
Sorry, the Jets just had terrible football.
Oh, the Jets are bad.
Let's go.
Go Trevion Henderson, score more points. And so Michigan and USC, the 2 teams are sort of pushing back. I don't know all the details of why Michigan is pushing back, but there's essentially a tiered system for the cash, inflow from this. It would be from the pension fund, the UC system, which is really weird. But this injection of cash into the conference. I think USC's biggest problem is they're not in the top tier, and you have Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, and USC has, as far as championships and Heisman's, way more than Penn State. USC's won more Rose Bowls than anyone the Big Ten has ever been to. So for USC to not be considered a top tier team, probably because they're new in the Big Ten, and then they're getting the same share as an Oregon, who's only getting a half share in the TV deal. And I think from looking at the numbers I saw, you have a top tier of Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, and then there's tier below of USC and Oregon, and then everyone else below that. But everyone else below that is millimeters from where USC and Oregon are, and there's a cavern between USC and the top teams. So I think that's why USC has a problem with it. They're being treated like a second-class citizen, and pushing back on this. And I think there's various levels of approval across the Big Ten, but especially if you're a bottom-dwelling team, you want to be locked up with Ohio State for forever. And does Michigan need to be tied to Rutgers for the next 20 years? You got them for 10. Do you need 20? I think that's one of the bigger issues too. So, yeah, I think. I don't know if USC, if it would make financial sense to go independent, but I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think the leadership is showing this. And I think USC needs to act like USC. They need to have some swagger hey, we're a big freaking deal in college football. We're not going to take this second-class citizen stuff. Penn State's 0-6 is big in play. What are you doing? It's not, it's not about this year. It's about, history and all that. And just because they've been in the conference a lot longer, you can't take a deal that's significantly less than what your peers are in the conference. So I think it's more about pushing back. And I think, push comes to shove, if you had to do it, I think that's something they could look into doing. I think there would be challenges, but there's challenges being in the Big Ten now. All your other sports have to play in some other conference and all that too. But I feel this is a really good thing, no matter what happens, that, and USC doesn't have a full-time president right now. You have an interim president, and the board and the administration with Jen Cohen and everyone there being able to say, hey, we're USC, and push back on this. We're not taking this deal, and we're not tying ourselves to Purdue and Rutgers and Indiana. Well, Indiana's really good right now, and for 20 years. So I like the move a lot. I don't know if it's going to turn into some sort of independence thing. I kind of doubt it, but I think it's more important that USC is fighting back and acting like USC, because we've seen for decades where they wouldn't do something like this, and now they are. So I applaud it. I think it's great that they're doing it. I don't know what the result's going to be, but they needed to push back on this, in my opinion.
If the money was equal, you think they'd be in?
That's a good question, too, because, a lot of the people talk about stability, and you want stability, but the sport is changing so much. I don't think you want to tie yourselves for 20 years. Like
I agree with that.
you could be in a situation.
There could be a better situation.
Yeah, where it's like you have Florida State and Clemson and Alabama and Georgia and USC and Ohio State and we're all in some big thing. Now, do we want like an NFL thing? I don't know. But man, if you want money, it'd make a lot of money. And you'd have to really get used to like 6-6 is not a bad season because you're playing everybody. But yeah, I think USC doesn't need the stability. They're in a good spot. Like, so if the whole sport blows up and changes and only Rutgers are screwed, right? Like you're like, okay, well, no one's going to pick us up. We're part of this thing. USC doesn't need that. Like that's sort of like this anchor that you're carrying around. And if USC was getting the full share, it would probably make more sense. Well, I don't know if they would go along with it. Michigan would get the full share, and they're a top-tier team, and it's not making sense to them. So I think you need to be a little bit more nimble right now. The Big Ten's been great as far as getting out in front of all of these media rights deals. Like they've re-signed at the right time. They've brought in the right partners. It's worked out really well. I don't think you need to the ACC signed some huge deal, and it was just bad.
People are in the chat saying, ask the ACC how that 20-year deal is going.
The Pac-12, their deal was great for the first year. They were the highest paid, and then it was crap 2 years in, and you still had 10 years left on the thing. So I'm not someone that said you should sign this thing out for 20 years. And Ross's story went in a lot into it. Wasn't like private equity where there's like some company trying to get the benefits and stuff. It seems more just like they want a piece of this Big Ten enterprises and all that. And they'll have a one vote, not like overwhelming voting and all the things like that. But I'm curious to see. I think the only way USC would consider it or not pushing back would be if they got, they were a top tier team, which they should be, and a full share. But I think locking yourselves into the entire conference, which is 18 teams. It's too many teams, by the way. I'm doing the Big Ten podcast. Too many freaking teams that we got to cover all this time. The sport's changing so much. I think you'd rather have the ability to move and be nimble than locked in for 20 years.
And we don't know the answer to this next question that I'll just pose, but it's kind of like the Notre Dame-USC rivalry. Who's going to walk away from the negotiation? Like if it's either opt into this or you're out of the Big Ten in 10 years, I wonder where they stand on that.
Yeah. First of all, you got 10 years there, and like the whole sport could be, I think, yeah, USC would be I don't know if you want to join like the SEC or something like that, but like there's probably gonna be something different looking in 10 years, like I don't think it's the same, the same kind of deal. Like the world will change. When I bought a Tesla, 2014, so my car's 11 years old, and I asked at the time, like, they're like, well, the battery will probably last like 10 years. And I'm like, well, what does a battery cost? They're like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's going to be so different 10 years from now. And I've had it for 11 years, and the battery's still good and everything. I'm like, it's been cool. At some point, I'm going to have to replace it. But they knew the way they make batteries,
change.
all of it's going to be different. Like, the whole sport's going to be way different in 10 years. How much different has it been the last year, the last 3 years, the last 5 years? So I wouldn't worry about that as much as like where you're going to be. There's something's going to change, and you being a free agent would probably be beneficial than if you're like, hey, we're all going to do something cool, but we don't want to bring Rutgers and Purdue along with us, so you're tied to them for 20 years. Like, okay, we're not doing that. So I wouldn't worry about that. Like, you're going to be left out in the cold. Now, maybe you get treated poorly for years and years in the Big Ten, but if you had Michigan as a partner, I think USC probably couldn't do this on its own. I think Michigan probably would have a hard time doing it on its own. I think they need each other in this situation. I don't know how much communication is going on, but yeah, I don't know. You just keep asking me questions. I feel like I'm rambling.
It's interesting. We're not going to lock ourselves into this potentially 20-year-long commitment if we're not getting a first-rate deal. I commend USC for having that stance.
Act like USC.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to put some numbers in this in the war room, but like, do you want to be like this close to what Maryland's making and then like this close to what Penn State's making, like on the wrong end? Like, no, if you were making a whole bunch more than the lower tier, that'd be one thing. But your tier is basically like a courtesy tier. Like it's basically like the top tier and then everybody else. And USC or Oregon have like a little bit more than everybody else, which to me, that doesn't make much sense. That's like you're trying to appease everybody. They're not appeasing USC. Like, so of all the teams, like Oregon only has a half share of revenue share right now. So for them to get the same as USC and more than the other teams in the Big Ten, no, they should. I mean, in all fair, like Oregon brings a lot to the table. They should be getting more than they should be getting a full share, but they came in late and they're not getting that. But now they're on the equal ground with USC and all of them they're about the same as everybody else in the Big Ten. So I do commend USC for pushing back. And I think it definitely helps that they have a partner in Michigan. Who knows? Tomorrow it could come out and then everyone just agrees and they move on with the deal. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to keep, fighting. They're supposed to talk of a deal. The Big Ten would rather not lose Michigan and USC. They just would rather not do that. And if that does happen, it's sort of like that old factory in your town, India, that like has been abandoned for a few years. And it's got all those windows on the outside. And that one kid throws that first rock to break a window, and then they just start breaking windows. Like you start looking at that factory.
Yeah.
If USC and Michigan are out as free agents, now all these other like Clemson and Florida State are like, hey man, we can start something new, and we got some teams we can pull in, and we'll work with the SEC, and then we're going to make this super conference, and we'll get out of our AC. Like it opens up opportunities for everyone else to be like, we don't need to be Big Ten here, SEC here. Now we can get some kind of thing, and like, and then it makes the Marylands of the world, the Rutgers of the world, the Mississippi States of the world worry because they're tied. It's way better to be Rutgers than it is to be like Iowa State, even though Iowa State has a more cachet in their conference. You'd rather be in the better conference, like a bottom dweller. I think the next iterations, like those bottom dwellers, are going to be in a little bit more danger. And no matter what happens, USC's going to be a top tier type of team. They're going to be one of the first kids picked at the playground, right? Like no one's waiting last to pick USC, So if the game changes and you're playing tag versus two-hand, whatever it is, like USC's going to get picked. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. You put yourself out there and stand your ground and make them, come back and meet your needs, or take your chances out in the real world. And I think, Michigan and USC would do fine out in the real world.
I agree with all that, but there's just so much unknown that I'm having a hard time formulating a take. So I appreciate you filling in the blanks.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot unknown. And I don't know, like, talk to people. I think the main thing is whatever happens, be happy that USC is like standing up for itself and not just rolling over and going like, sure, we're not as good as Penn State. It's like, come on, Ohio State's a juggernaut. That's great. If you want to say Ohio State's going to get all this and everyone else gets less, I mean, it's hard to freaking argue with the success that they've had for decades and decades and tradition and all that. But like USC is right up there. Like I said, the number of Rose Bowl wins, they've won the Rose Bowl more than the rest of the Big Ten has been, any of those teams. So it's like there's a lot, 8 Heismans and 11 national championships and all the All-Americans and all that stuff. Like all that stuff matters. And, they've not been good the last couple of years, but, they're right there this year, and they can be good at any time. They won 11 games a couple of years ago. So I think USC needs to act like USC. And from what I'm hearing and seeing, it seems like they're doing that right now.
Should we get into some questions?
Sure, yeah.
We do have a question in regards to what we're talking about. Speed Times Kills is wondering, using the tier argument, why is Michigan against it if they would in the top tier with Ohio State and Penn State?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact reason, but we mentioned this a little bit. I think some of it is, not being able to do something else and tying yourself to everyone else in the conference for 20 years. So, it's good to be in the top tier, but even Michigan doesn't want to do that. And there might be some specific stuff with Ohio State. I'm not sure, but I think some of it has to do with just not wanting to lock this up for 20 years when the whole sport is going to be a lot different probably next year. I mean, it'll be the first year of just full on revenue sharing, right? Like we've
going to change.
We've had like 5 months of that. Like things are going to change quite a bit.
Yeah. We've got a question.
We got a super chat too.
Hold on. I'll do that one after this question.
Okay.
This is kind of about the weather. Don't the receivers have an advantage in rainy and slippery weather? They run their routes while the DBs have to react.
Someone smart said that earlier. Oh, wait, that was me.
It favors the team that doesn't have as many athletes, that needs to just run the ball to go from point A to point B. The receivers are sliding around too, and the quarterback can't grip the ball as well. Rain will always favor the less athletic team, right?
I think rain can like sort of shrink the advantage of if you have a faster team, do you want like Notre Dame would grow the grass high to like slow things down back in the Pete Carroll days, trying to like even the playing field a little bit. I think rain can do that too, where it's like the more athletic, skilled team can get hurt a little bit by the rain. But like specific one-on-one matchups, I think it's easier for receivers in the rain than DBs who are trying to react, like you said,
All right. Super chat time. Let's see. I have a crazy idea. USC should reject the new Big Ten deal and start a new conference with teams from California, Oregon, Arizona, and Washington.
Yeah. That's the other thing is like the quicker you blow up this stuff, the quicker you can get back to like maybe super conference, but with regional things. So you play the teams on the West Coast again, and maybe Cal and Stanford are in there. And, I don't know. This is a weird one.
Somebody said hashtag Pac-10 After Dark Super Conference.
Yes. I don't think you want to go out and you're not trying to do what Oregon State and Washington State did. Like you want the landscape to change, and you would be involved in that. Like they're like, oh, USC, we want them involved. If it's Oregon State, you're like, we don't really need them involved. Like nobody picked them up. They were free agents too when the whole Pac-12 blew up. And they were the only teams that didn't get picked up. Like that's what happens to, you don't want to, Rutgers, Maryland, you don't want to see that happening if you're Purdue, like what happened to Oregon State, Washington State. They're more incentivized than ever to lock themselves to these conferences for as long as possible. They would sign a 100-year deal if you could. Because you've seen what happened. Like, it was devastating.
And UCLA is broke, and they need the money.
UCLA needs the money too, yeah. But to see like Oregon State and Washington State just being left behind and trying to create something, and to their credit, I think they've done some stuff as far as like TV deals. I think they just announced the USA Network thing, the CW. You get some games on that. At least I can get that now. I can't get ESPN. But like, yeah, you don't want that to happen. If you're Mississippi State, you don't want to be like, what the heck are we going to do now? And the other thing is like, hey, we better get good. Because you know what we'd have been saying when I'm saying Rutgers or Maryland or Purdue all the time? 2 years ago, you'd be saying Vanderbilt. And now you can't say it because they're good. You would have said Indiana too, and you can't say it because they're freaking good. So either get good or tie yourselves to the wagon that's going to carry you for the rest, for the next 20 years. So I think that's where people, and USC doesn't need to be tied to all that. Michigan doesn't need to be tied to all that. So I can see why they wouldn't be as into it.
I was going to say, even on top of just the game and the format and everything changing so much in terms of these conferences, is like teams. Like you don't know who's going to be good in a couple years from now and who's like not good right now, and that all of that can change. Like takes one massive donor like Kansas Athletics. They just had like an insane, I don't even know how much it was, but like it can change everything. So it's all ever changing.
Yeah. No, I think Mark Cuban has been like involved in Indiana. I think that's helped. But you hire a great coach.
Yeah.
They're really good right now. And now that doesn't change. Like they're the most losingest program in college football history still, but they're really good right now. But that's not going to put them in tier one because they're really good right now.
Right.
It's more about the tradition and all that. And just because they've been great at basketball. No offense to it, but it just doesn't drive the boat like football does.
And they haven't been very good lately.
Yeah.
No, they've been kind of stinky, yeah.
We've got a question from USC Trojan Zone. Eli Sanders getting a 6-year.
Not going to happen. He's played too many games to get the medical red shirt, unfortunately.
There you go.
So he's done? Yeah.
Unless they change the medical red shirt rule. But I don't know if
Who
that's going to
knows?
happen.
And then Alex Ruiz, any update on Waymo?
Shotgun just said in the chat, Northwestern passed Indiana for most losses all time last week, I guess.
Oh,
Dang.
way to go, Indiana. You're number 2.
what
That's
was
funny.
the question?
Any update on Waymo?
No, but maybe he comes back. I feel a little bit better about that than I did previously. I think that's dependent on USC winning this week, of course. But if they still have something to play for, it seems like he's trending in a good direction, but we'll try to get more insight into that in the future.
Cool. And then we've got 3 questions from Andrew.
Okay.
First one, I've heard you guys say recruits don't watch the game like we do. If true, you think there is any added pressure on a homecoming week and a big visit week for the staff?
No. I mean, it's great to get a win, but they're not going to go home and be like, oh my God, I can't, like, no. They don't watch the games like that.
No,
like,
they don't.
Did they have a good time? Was the food good?
What's the money going to be?
Yeah. How much are we going to get paid? Like, it's great. Oh, it was great when they won, or the guy in my position did awesome and he's
Yeah.
a senior. Like, that's, it's not like live or die by if they win or lose. So
I think USC's already shown progress from last year, and that's enough to
Yeah.
keep the class together, assuming everyone sticks around.
I love how that's like doesn't compute. It's like, wait, no, like, no, they don't look at it that way.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
it's
not
just
at all.
like,
Same with basketball. Like,
right. Yeah. You're like, whatever.
yeah.
Did you care on your recruiting visits or whatever? Or like,
Probably more so than other people.
because you're psycho. You're
But-
you. Yeah, you're automatic. Yeah.
But like, yeah, some people don't care. Especially, it is funny to see, and I'm talking about basketball, but it's funny when you see like the transfer portal, and you see like kids making the same mistakes, and you would think like when you made a decision out of high school, that then when you're choosing to transfer to another school in college, like you know what you're looking for, or like style of play, or there's certain things you didn't pay attention to coming out of high school because you're young, whatever, that you wouldn't make the same mistake, while looking in college to go to another college, but the
they
kids
still
still
do.
make the same mistake. So it happens, and I'm sure
Yeah.
it's the same with football. Okay, this is another question from Andrew. Fun hypothetical: if USC moved into the Rose Bowl for the Olympics, how many games would they sell out?
They don't really sell out games, so probably none. I mean, it depends on what the schedule is and like, but I don't know. That's a weird question. I don't know.
There you go.
I'm gonna go none.
Well, they sold out Michigan.
Okay. Yeah, but this would be like 90,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be tougher, so maybe one or two.
And it's like further away, and the students can't walk.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
students are gonna be.
I'm gonna go none.
I'll go with one. We've got a question from Trojan Fight. Where are we with Elijah Harmon? Heard OU is the favorite recently.
He's the defensive lineman at Inglewood. I heard it was between USC and Oregon lately, but maybe Oklahoma is in the mix now. I don't know why USC isn't pushing 2027 a little bit more right now. Obviously, they have a ton of time before you really need to get going in that class, but it would be nice to get a head start, especially with the new staff that they have on the back end, the support staff. So I'm not sure, but I do think there's something to be said about momentum. And when you get a couple of recruits, then other guys look around like, oh, look what USC's doing. And then that makes the class more attractive. So I wish that they had at least a couple right now in 2027, but they don't. And maybe would Harmon be the first one? Potentially. Not totally sure what the latest is with him. Chris, I think, most recently spoke with him, so might be a better question for the 2-Star podcast.
All right.
And then last one from Andrew. Ryan, are you ready for this?
Yes, I'm ready for anything.
Is this game jacket worthy?
It's not good in the rain,
No, it's not a
Let
good.
me pull up the photo.
Yeah, it's not a rain jacket. Unfortunately,
even though it was raining that day.
Yes, but no, it got really wet in South Bend, and it
Couldn't withstand the rain.
So I don't think you want to mess up the juju, with the jacket. Now, if we go to Eugene and USC doesn't win, and I got the jacket, it's like, well, it wasn't The same. So it's undefeated in Big Ten road games that are in a different time zone. So that's all we would have for that.
That's such a niche
Very niche.
Isn't it undefeated in Big
category.
Ten road games? Period.
Yes, but if USC loses at
To
Oregon,
Oh, got it.
yeah.
I missed that first part. Sorry.
Yeah, so
got-
that would be the caveat there. But I don't think we're going to mess it up at home. I will take it on the road to Oregon, unless it's like pouring down rain. Then I'm going to need a different jacket because it's not good to be wet.
We've got one last minute question. It's a basketball question, but I got to answer it.
Okay.
It says, question for Automatic. Is USC women's basketball going to be the NCAA favorite next year with 3 number 1 recruits on the same roster?
They freaking better be.
Absolutely. They absolutely better be. I'm super excited, obviously, for this season and to see how it plays out, but looking into the following year is going to be really, really exciting, and you guys should get your tickets now because it's going to be a good one.
Nice.
That's it. That's all we got.
Perfect. Well, good stuff.
You want to sign off, Ryan?
No, you
want me
can
to do it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for another great show of Tunnel Vision. Iowa Hawkeyes versus USC Trojans Saturday. It's going to be a good one. The guys will break it down on Sunday.
We have to give our predictions.
Oh my God, we do have to do our predictions. Who's going
Sorry, I
first?
didn't mean to cut
No,
you
you're
off.
good. I'll go first. Okay. I think USC is going to cover, and I think the score is going to be USC 28, Iowa 21.
All right.
What's your record on the cover, India?
I don't know.
Not
I honestly,
good.
I'm not even going to lie to. I had to confer with Connor earlier. I was like, what are your thoughts on this? So I had a little, I needed to seek some advice.
Well, I haven't been great either. I'm a game under 500, and I know you're worse than I am, and we're agreeing, so that makes me nervous, but I have USC by 7 as well, 24-17.
Yeah, I think so. The most points that Iowa's given up in Big Ten play is 28, and that was to Rutgers. I think USC puts up 31 in this one. I'm going to go 31-21. Iowa has some success on the ground, but I want to say the Trojans win by 10, cover the spread. I like the matchup here. I think USC can score some points and do the thing that you need to do against a team like Iowa.
So we're all covering. That sounds
Yeah,
great.
so probably not going to happen. But whatever. We'll see.
I know.
yes.
I hope they cover so I can get my score up. Anyway, Tunnel Vision. I am India Otto. That's Ryan Abraham. Connor